Previously on Traveller of Places, Snape pulls something from his robe, a vial filled with silvery light, and tucks it into Harry's pocket. "I'm sorry, Potter," Snape says. "I did all I could." Lucius is over this. He winds up the killing curse, but Draco roars, "No!" He steps in front of his father and screams, "Avada Kedavra!" Harry, Ron, and Hermione leap through the portal. Draco fends off every bolt he can, but then retreats, following them through the streams of time, back to a day before any of them can remember. A second chance to do things right. Hey there! We've been rewriting the original Harry Potter stories in an effort to learn from them and grow our skills, especially in light of J.K. Rowling's actions and stances that are making lives in the trans community more difficult. This is the fourth and final part of the series. Links below to the first three if you haven't watched them yet. We're heading into a very different ending for this story, so buckle up. As always, trans rights are human rights, and if you can, please donate to the Trevor Project. They run support and crisis lines for the LGBTQ+ community, placing them on the forefront of dealing with the recent wave of transphobia the world is currently facing. There's a link below for that as well. They deserve all the help they can get. And now, without further ado, let's finish this thing. Book 7, Harry Potter and the Boy Who Lived. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Draco blast into a darkened hallway as the Grand Time Turner powers down. They're in exactly the same place they were, surrounded by magical curios, but the Death Eaters have gone. "Did we make it?" Harry asks. "I don't know," Hermione replies, while she and Ron each aim their wands at Draco. Draco laughs. "You're really going to kill me? After all that?" "You're a Death Eater, ain't you?" Ron asks. "I just killed my own father to save you three," Draco says. "I think that ship has sailed, don't you?" Harry stands between them. He's right, we wouldn't be here without him. They argue over whether to trust Malfoy, Harry on the defense, Ron surprised Harry is so quick to trust him. Hermione stays quiet. Except Harry doesn't trust Malfoy. Not really, but he doesn't understand. This bully of his has saved his life twice in a row, and Harry wants to know why. Aren't they enemies? Didn't Draco hate him? But with time of the essence, the argument is cut short, and, forced to accept him for the time being, they move out. The hallways are mostly deserted, with only the evening shift workers, cleaners, and those left burning deadlines with naught but midnight oil still hanging around. A stack of newspapers are being bundled up, that morning's edition. Grabbing one, they notice the date, and as the clock chimes, they realize they have less than an hour before Voldemort reaches baby Harry and his parents. Time travel at such a scale is not the most accurate of things. The group immediately runs for the exits, out into London, and apparate to Godric's Hollow, where they know the young family is hiding, only to find Voldemort already in the street, and he is not alone. A dozen Death Eaters are charging around, looking for which house the Potters are hiding in. Our heroes duck out of sight. "I thought he'd be alone," Harry whispers. "He should be," Hermione replies. "The books didn't mention anyone else." "That's because no one knew," Draco adds. "They stayed quiet after he fell. Cowards, mostly. No one wanted to admit they were involved." "Did you really think the Dark Lord travelled alone?" Hermione doesn't respond, just glaring at Draco. He looks away. "How dangerous are they?" Harry asks. "If they're cowards, will they fight?" "Oh, they'll fight," Draco replies. "But if he falls again, they won't stick around." "Yeah?" Ron asks. "Daddy tell you that?" "Nope, he's actually one of them," Draco says. "Mum told me. But tell you what, you can kill my dad this time. How's that sound?" Ron grunts in response. Harry just smiles. Hermione remains silent, uncomfortably so. They sneak around the Death Eaters, reaching the back door of the Potter's house, and run inside, where James Potter fires a stunning spell at them. Hermione blocks it, and they quickly explain who they are, explain they're from the future, and that if they don't change things, both James and Lily will soon die. James, for many reasons, does not believe they are from the future. Until he sees Harry. Lily walks downstairs with baby Harry in her arms, singing to him, trying to quiet the child. Both adult and baby Harry have the same eyes, Lily's eyes. But just as explanations are accepted, their first meeting is interrupted by a deep laugh that rings through the building.
Harry Potter,
Voldemort's voice says.
All grown up. How truly incredible.
Everyone gets in defensive positions. It's too dangerous to apparate or flu powder away with a toddler, and running outside would put them directly in the Death Eater's grasp. James has already been madly signaling the Order of the Phoenix with a device Dumbledore had given him. They just need to hold out until help arrives. The first attacking wave is easy to fend off. Ron and Hermione defend the back door, Draco and Harry the front. Lily and James stay in the center of the house, protecting the baby, supporting the others, and defending the stairs from those that would try entrance through the second-floor windows. Voldemort has little time for such things. He steps forward, dispersing the Death Eaters to his sides, easily blocking the spells our heroes fire against him. But before the Dark Lord can fire back, out runs a young man from the Death Eater crowd, with long hair, all clad in black. A young Severus Snape stands between Voldemort and Harry. He's out of breath, and obviously afraid.
"My lord, the house is booby-trapped," Snape says. "If you enter, you will be destroyed."
Voldemort halts his advance at these words, his gaze switching between Harry and Draco in the open door, Lily holding her child behind them, James by her side, and Snape blocking the way through. Then he smiles.
Severus, Severus,
Voldemort says.
My faithful companion, my young friend. You always look out for me.
"Of course, my lord,"
Snape replies. Voldemort gazes at Snape's quivering face.
And yet, you're lying, aren't you? You wish to save your dear Lily so much. You would betray me.
"My lord, no!"
No, don't try and deny it, says Voldemort. I understand, truly I do. But betrayal is still betrayal.
And before Snape can move, a green flash erupts from Voldemort's wand, and the lifeless body of Severus Snape hits the ground. Harry is almost happy at the sight. The man he's just seen kill Albus Dumbledore not a few hours ago, slain by his own master. The irony is not lost. But then comes a scream, as Lily tries to reach the dead body, James holding her back. Hermione runs to help calm Lily down and keep the baby safe, Ron still holding the back door. Voldemort just laughs.
Ah, love, what would we do without it? He says. Now, Harry, big, full-grown Harry, I can sense something about you, a connection between us, an energy, and yet we've never even met. How is such a thing possible when you are to die as a mere pup?
Harry lifts his fringe, revealing the lightning bolt scar. Because even in my time, you fail. Voldemort sees the scar, glances at the child, and then to his own wand, before his laughter returns, cackling and wild.
How intriguing, he laughs. A child from the future, here to face me. You may survive, but so must I for you to come back here. Do I truly grow so powerful, you'd resort to this just to stop me?
Harry knows what Voldemort is thinking, what the prophecy has said, that Harry wants his title, to be the true Dark Lord. It's something Harry himself fears to become. But he knows it could also be useful if Voldemort continued to believe such things. Maybe I'm not here for you at all, Harry says. Maybe I want so much more. Voldemort's eyes widen.
So the prophecy is true,
he says, looking around, trying to find a solution to the problem. The doorway is still blocked by Harry and Draco, barely 2 yards ahead. Draco's wand hasn't shifted from Voldemort this entire time. His hand is shaking. The house is still filled with Voldemort's enemies, a big, wooden house. Harry sees the idea spark in Voldemort's face.
But if I can't stop a child, the Dark Lord says, then I may as well burn what I can.
Voldemort raises his wand, aiming at the rafters, but Harry catches him in time. As a sliver of flame just sparks out from the wand, Harry leaps forward, grabs Voldemort's wrist, and aims it high. A pillar of flame scours the sky, and Voldemort's hand starts to crackle and burn beneath Harry's touch. And Harry realizes his mother's gift, the one that had cost her life and saved him from Quirrell all those years ago, was still there. And without Harry's blood in Voldemort's veins, the Dark Lord now had no defense against it. Voldemort screams and throws a burst of energy between them, flinging Harry back into Draco's arms, while Voldemort lands between his Death Eaters, barely on his feet. The Dark Lord looks at his crumbled hand, and with a flick of his wand it starts to reform.
"You certainly have power, child," Voldemort says. "You wish to become a Dark Lord? You wish to stand in my place, after all?"
And at those words, flashes of light abound along the street. Albus Dumbledore, the Order of the Phoenix, all appear and start firing upon the Death Eaters. Some fire back, many flee.
"Very well then,"
Voldemort says, stepping backwards.
"Then perhaps you and I shall face off again one day, and we'll see how good you are."
Voldemort retreats, along with the remaining Death Eaters, and almost everyone has survived. They did it. Our heroes, along with Harry's parents, baby, and the rest of the Order of the Phoenix, all fly back to the safety of the Order's new headquarters, Grimmauld Place. It's darker than Harry remembers. There's stuffed house elf heads on the wall, and Kreacher seems somehow even less hospitable. But Harry has little time to take it all in before the questionings start. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Draco each explain what they can about the future, about what is to happen. Lily and James, upon hearing of their death and how Harry grew up, hug him tighter than he's ever been hugged before. He tries not to cry, but he hasn't had a quiet moment in what seems like years. And his parents are hugging him. They're alive. He did it. He saved them. The interrogations continue. The baby starts screaming. Lily leaves to tend to him, squeezing Harry's shoulder with a smile as she goes. It's not long before James follows to help. The four finish explaining themselves to Dumbledore and the Order, and then leave them to deliberate. The Order is still unsure if they should trust the newcomers, and the four, honestly, don't blame them. "If it were just the three of us, I'd argue more," Ron says. "But Draco's the bloody son of the top Death Eater." "Still don't trust me then?" Draco asks, with a sarcastic grin. "After how you've treated us?" Hermione adds. It's the first time she's really spoken to Draco, and he immediately shuts up. The grin falls away. "And you!" she yells at Harry. "Why are you always defending him? After everything he's done, why are you okay with this?" "Yeah," Ron adds in. "Suddenly you won't say a word against the guy. I thought you were our friend." "I am," Harry replies. "But I don't understand why he's fought for us, saved us, why he hasn't killed us a dozen times over when he easily could have. And if I'm missing something, I need to know. I can't risk being wrong. So, Draco, what's going on? Why did you save us all back at the Ministry and Dumbledore's office? Why fight with us tonight?" Draco had been edging back during the argument, but now felt the heat of the spotlight. "I didn't save you all. I saved you," he says, looking at Harry. Because it was the right thing to do. I should have stood up to my father years ago. It was a long time coming." "So now what, you're good?" asks Ron. "We're meant to believe that." "Why now then?" Harry continues. "Why not earlier? Why all the crap over the years?" "I don't know," Malfoy replies. "Because it was fun?" Draco had meant it as a joke, a light-hearted jab. But then he sees the looks in the other three's eyes, and the rage that suddenly sparks. "It wasn't fun for us!" Hermione yells. Draco steps back. "No, absolutely, and I'm sorry I said what I did." "Do you think that makes it okay?" she yells. "A few words, and we'd forget? Forget the teasing, the relish you took in calling me Mudblood?" No, of course not," Draco says, trying to calm the situation. "You always reminded me, my family," Ron says. "Just a Weasley, less than dirt." "I know, please." "And you targeted us, targeted me," Harry roars. "Why?" "Because you were Harry Potter and his friends. It was an easy target. I just did what everyone else did." "No, you didn't," Harry says. "Half of the teasing I got was started by you. No one else hated us as much, even the other Slytherins. You took it upon yourself to attack over and over again. Why?" "I don't know." "You do," yells Harry. "Why?" "It's nothing." "Tell me," Harry roars. "Because it was just a thing." "No, tell me, why?" "Because you chose them over me." No one responds. As soon as Draco realizes what he's said, he steps away, bumping into the wall and taking deep breaths to try and calm down. I'd heard my entire life three things that my family was built upon that made us strong. First, our blood was pure. That made us better. I took that to heart, more than I should. Hermione, I am sorry for the things I said, the names I called you. It's the way I was raised, but that doesn't make it okay. Second, we were better than the Weasleys, who mingled with the Muggles and Muggleborns, fascinated by them. I took that to heart too. Again, far too much. Ron, that's on me. I said things I shouldn't have, and I am sorry. Again, that doesn't make it okay. And third, Harry, when my father wasn't around, my mother would tell me stories. I had to promise not to repeat them when he could hear. She'd tell me tales of the great Harry Potter, how on one special night, a baby defeated the Dark Lord, and our family was free. I heard how amazing you were, Harry, and how you saved us from a tyrant who kills his own people, if for a moment they disobey. Snape, tonight, was nowhere near the first. But no more. He was gone. Thanks to you. And then I met you, and I thought, hey, here he is, my new best friend. And I offered you my hand, offered to help you. And you declined, because I wasn't good enough. And instead, you chose the Weasleys and the Muggleborns that I had been taught to hate. So yes, I fought you, I bullied, I was not kind. And for that, I am sorry. But this is a chance to make the world better, safer, maybe even make amends? And I want that chance. When Draco stops talking, no one responds. Harry stares at Draco and silently walks off. He doesn't know what to say. Ron and Hermione watch him go. Huh, fancy that, Ron says with half a smile. He steps towards the door, but doesn't leave, watching Hermione in case she needs backup. She doesn't move. Hermione, Draco says, before she can react, nothing I can say can make up for how I treated you. I could say it's how I was taught, the world, the family I grew up with, but I still did those things. So, hold it against me all you like. You deserve that. I'm not asking your forgiveness. But please, don't stop me from helping with this fight. Because you and the other Muggleborns, you shouldn't have to live in a world filled with that. The Weasleys should not be shunned for simply being kind. Harry should grow up with his parents. And I'd like there to be a version of me that doesn't grow up with that kind of hate around. Please. She thinks for a moment, considering. You really care about him, don't you? She asks, gesturing to the door Harry left through. More than any of us thought. That's why you killed your father, because he was about to kill Harry. Draco chuckles and shrugs. I couldn't do nothing. He's blushing, but sad. She smiles back. I don't forgive you. For how you've always acted, you honestly repulse me. But you care about him, and you have helped us, and you are one of us now. So long as that's true, I won't stop you at all. I can see you trying to help, to make amends, and that's good. Keep going. But if that changes, if you turn against us, against Harry, Ron, or myself, I am the most powerful witch you have ever met. Other than Dumbledore, the only other person who, I'm told, comes close is Harry's mother, who, because of my plan, is now alive and sitting in the next room. If you betray any of us, if for half a second you falter, then the world, even time itself, is not big enough for you to escape. Am I understood? Draco smiles, understandingly, and offers her his hand to shake. Deal. She hesitates and accepts the handshake. Don't make me regret this. He shakes his head. Never. Never again. Meanwhile, Harry walks into the nearest empty room and sits on the floor. There's faces stitched into the walls, the Black family tree, and across from him stand the Malfoy branch, distant cousins of Sirius. Draco isn't on there yet. The door to the kitchen opens and Harry can hear people walking out. The meeting must be over. He ignores it. He doesn't feel like company yet. But soon there's a knock at the door, and Sirius, young Sirius, only 21 or so years old, pokes his head inside. "Here you are," he says. "Mind if I join you? It's a bit manic out there." Harry nods, and Sirius sits against the wall. "Never liked this room," Sirius says. "Too many faces I'd rather forget." "You found me here once," Harry replies, and points to the burn mark by the door. "Old you said your mother did that when you left." Sirius nods. "Never was much of a mother, but yes, that was her." "Was it hard to leave? Fight against your family?" "It had challenges," Sirius replies. "But I had somewhere to go to. Your dad and his family always took me in." Harry smiles and doesn't respond. "Everything all right?" Sirius asks him. "In the meeting, we decided to trust you, future boy, which means I'm still your godfather, even if you are grown. Are you thinking of your parents? They love you, you know." "No, not them," Harry says. "They're great, and I'm glad you all came around. It's Draco. I don't understand him, and I don't know if we can trust him, even after he killed his own father to save us." Sirius chuckles. "He killed Lucius? I think I like this guy." Harry smiles. But Draco was also a Death Eater, a Slytherin. The Sorting Hat saw that in him. How can you trust that? "Slytherin is just a schoolhouse, you know," Sirius says. "People change, they grow up." "Maybe, but he bullied us for years. I think the same way that Snape did to you and Dad." "Snape never bullied us, Harry," Sirius replies. "We bullied him. More than we should have, really." "Why?" Sirius shrugs. "Easy target, I guess. I think James was always jealous of Snape's relationship with Lily. He was afraid of losing her. Afraid of losing her to Snape." Sirius chuckles. "Yes, I know how it sounds. No doubt he's gotten worse in his old age, am I right?" Harry nods, and then some. "Well, he was always bitter," Sirius says. "But Snape and Lily, they could talk, really talk, about magic or life or anything. If you heard them together, they were two halves of the same mind. Even Remus, though he could match her on the smarts, he never had the other stuff. While James, he was a Quidditch guy. Handsome, charming, her total opposite personality, but he swept her off her feet. Quite literally, he flew by on his broom, took her to the clouds to show her a sunset. He won her heart with romance and making her laugh. But he never quite had that connection that she had with Snape. And it worried him. So you all bullied Snape because Dad was afraid?" "Every bully is afraid, Harry," says Sirius. "I've been on both sides. The bully tries to be strong, to cover the fear, or remove it entirely. But underneath, they're always just a scared little kid." Harry gazes across the room, where he suspects Draco's portrait would be drawn, and above, the family that raised him, the Death Eaters Draco fought against, just like Sirius had, but without somewhere else to turn. Until now. "Does that count for Voldemort, you think?" Harry asks. "Is he afraid?" "Oh, terrified," says Sirius. "The bigger the bully, the more afraid they are. We just need to find what of, and we win." Hermione is walking through the halls of Grimmauld Place. It's bigger than she remembers, like the house grows to accommodate those inside. She walks into a room, hunting for somewhere to hide and to think, only to find Lily in need of the same thing. She's in a chair by the fireplace, a book on her lap, wand in hand, obviously practicing a spell. Her eyes are red with tears, and Hermione recognizes her coping mechanism when she sees it. "Sorry, just working on something," Lily says, wiping her face. "James has Harry for a bit. Come in, please." "Trying to distract yourself?" Hermione asks, sitting in the chair opposite. Lily nods. "Severus, he was my best friend. I don't want to lose anyone else." Hermione was never a fan of Snape, but she understands the feeling. "I get it. I do the same," she replies. "We lost people too. A lot of people. So I brought us back here, figured out how. All for the same reasons. I had to do something." "And does he think you're crazy? This Ron of yours?" Hermione turns red, but decides not to hide it. "Honestly, I think he's just worried. I suspect James is too, and Harry. Both Harrys. I know they want to help, fix everything," Lily says with a sad smile. "Our boys will be boys. But some things can't be fixed, only prevented," Hermione adds, finishing Lily's thought. "At least, as much as can be." They sit in silence, both lost in the same question. How ready could they be for this fight? "So, what are you working on?" Hermione asks, breaking the silence. "There's a friend I have who has moments of energy depletion every month, and I think I can help." "Oh, you mean Remus, with his wolf? You know about that?" "Remus was our professor for a year," Hermione explains, "and a good friend. I've seen his change." "So werewolves are safe in the future? Open? Free?" Hermione groans. "Not exactly. He hid as best he could, but was eventually discovered and forced from the school." "Ah, no change then," Lily says. "Well, yes, him. With Severus's help. We made a potion to make the changes easier, keep him conscious and in control while in lichen form, stop the curse spreading. But I want to try helping him recover after the fact. Pass some energy from one user to the next, the same way that Wingardium Leviosa passes a flow of energy for levitation, but without an activation point, just handing the energy over to the subject. And I've almost got it, but I don't know how to test it." "That's amazing," Hermione replies, genuinely stunned. She's never seen a new spell being built. "What's the issue?" "It's a bit risky," Lily replies. "If I'm right, with too much energy compressed in one place, it could explode. But other than that, it's perfectly safe." "Oh, is that all?" Hermione chuckles. "I'm sure we can figure something out." And over the next hour, they do. First, they practice on the fireplace, without incantations, just adding energy into a flame to make it grow. Once practiced at that, they try with the smallest amounts of energy, passing from one person to the other, while the second holds the flame mid-air, noticing how the flame grows when the energy is received. Until they reach the final test, Lily passing energy to Hermione, who aims a bolt of stupefy through the empty hall, hoping the length would be enough to dissipate any damage. "Hey, there you are!" Ron calls, stepping into the hall just as Hermione casts. The blast breaks the door frame, shatters the floor tiles and the walls, and knocks Ron backwards through the plasterboard behind him. He collapses in a heap, buried in wood and detritus. "Ron!" Hermione yells, she and Lily both running after him. He gurgles as they pull him from the debris. Lily repairs the damage while Hermione plasters Ron with mogwort weed and bandages. "Sorry," she says. "I'm so sorry. I didn't think you were there. I didn't mean to." "It's fine," Ron replies, laughing. "It's only my bones. I don't need those, do I?" Hermione laughs in spite of herself and kisses his hand. He soon makes a full recovery, and the building is easily repaired. But Lily and Hermione confer the next chance they get. They've never seen a simple stun cause so much damage. The next morning, once they've had a chance to rest and recover, the Order of the Phoenix, now including our 4 heroes, plan their next moves over breakfast. The table is full. Not everyone had been available at such short notice to protect Godric's Hollow. There were other fights in other places, but now they had all gathered. Hagrid is there, as is Mad-Eye Moody, and Neville's parents, who are yet to be driven insane by Bellatrix Lestrange. Ron's parents aren't in the Order yet, but his uncles, Molly's 2 brothers, are. Ron's only ever seen pictures of them before they were murdered by Death Eaters. Our heroes start by telling everyone of the dangers they face, who will die and when. Neville had asked Harry to save his parents, and so he intends to. Plans are made to combat these events. It means pulling back many of the Order's current operations though, which they know will create more danger elsewhere. "We don't have enough bodies," says Sirius. "If we pull people out, we'll lose our safe houses, supplies, escape routes." Dumbledore agrees with him. "If our people are in place, they will die. If they are not, then so will many others, and we will lose ground. Do you 4 have a plan to combat this?" Hermione perks up. "Yes, actually, I think I do." She's hesitant in how she speaks. She's been going over this little speech repeatedly since they first decided to come back here, and she only has one shot to convince everyone. "The problem here, I think, is not Voldemort," she says, to rumbles of disagreement. "He's just the head of the wizard supremacy movement, but those ideals are still built into everything, our laws, our schools, our culture. Deep down, we think magic, human magic, is better, and the more human and the more magic you have, the longer you've had it, the better you are. That is everything the Death Eaters stand for, so-called purity. If we can change that basis, then Voldemort loses his platform." "Interesting," says Remus. "And do you have a means to accomplish this? Reveal magic to the Muggle world?" There's sneers across the table. "No, not at first, definitely," Hermione replies. "That's a huge step that can only happen after the wizarding world is on a safer footing. Otherwise, we just risk a much larger and more dangerous enemy. But what we can do is bring in the other non-human races. The goblins, the house elves, the centaurs, anyone that can communicate with us and wants to join. Level the playing field." Again, rumbles of distrust. "We've already tried that," calls a voice down the table. "They always refuse." "Because we don't offer them equality," Harry adds. "We offer them a place at the bottom and to fight to stay there. Of course they refuse." "Exactly," Hermione says. "But if we give them what they want, equal rights, exchange of ideas, and everything that entails, that's something worth fighting for, and we'll suddenly have thousands to fight by our side." The rumblings grow more intrigued, but not yet convinced. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Dumbledore asks. "We give them wands and invites to Hogwarts." The table erupts into cries of "Madness!" and "What would that achieve?" Dumbledore raises his hand, and the room falls silent. "We have always subjugated the other races, enslaved the house elves, driven the goblins and the centaurs to the fringes of society," he says. "For good or ill, none would join us unquestioningly." "Then we answer their questions," Ron says. "We give them all wands and training to use them. By joining, we agree to fight to change the laws, allow them into Hogwarts. In the meantime, we train them privately. The goblins have always wanted to learn to make wands, while we want to learn goblin smithing. We trade 1 for 1. We outlaw house elf slavery, grant the centaurs freedom of movement," Hermione adds. "The house elves have magic without wands, the centaurs understand nature. We trade those for wandcraft, make it an obvious and above-board trade. A meeting of ideas that helps everyone, so they know there's no ulterior motive. We can do that while agreeing to fight for the law changes. That's something worthwhile for everyone. And all we need to do today," says Draco, "is grab a bunch of wands, then get a few of each group in a room and offer them a better world. Tomorrow we could outnumber the Death Eaters 10 to 1. There are more rumblings at these words, but as the conversations continue, few can argue with that logic. They decide to make the offer. Representatives are gathered, starting with the centaurs, goblins, and house elves, which are all easily contacted. Creature is asked to find Dobby at the Malfoys, and they contact another 2 elves who are able to get away from their masters for a night. Dumbledore meets with the centaurs, who he's always had kind dealings with. they send the chief of each of the 3 centaur tribes. The goblins are the hardest. They've managed to form their own place in the world in spite of the humans. But those humans have never made an offer to help them before, and the leaders are curious. They send a small delegation to hear the wizard's proposal. The offer made is simple. All races shall receive wands and training in their use if they want them. No questions asked. Each of the 4 races shall contribute a discipline of knowledge: wand-making, goblin-smithing, wandless magic, and divination/understanding of nature, to be taught to any in the Alliance who wish to learn. The long-standing gripes between the races, such as possession of goblin-made artifacts, shall be discussed and efforts made to find agreeable solutions once peace has been achieved. The 4 races shall join together to fight Voldemort and any others who later threaten the group, and the wizards will do all in their power to positively affect the laws that currently bind the others in freedom of movement, wand ownership, training, and to outlaw slavery. All understand that aspects such as law changes will take time to arrange, but the rest shall begin immediately. The group is tentative, expecting a catch to this plan. Why would the wizards offer so much? Because we don't have a choice, says Harry. And because it's right, Hermione adds. We need your help, and you deserve better. One of the goblins laughs.
And why would we agree to this? Why believe that you would actually give us wands after all these centuries?
Harry places 3 boxes in the center of the table, opening them to reveal 100 wands in each. Ollivander is with them in the meeting, having provided the wands, and agrees to help each individual find the wand that most suits them.
The wand chooses the wizard, he says with a smile.
The goblins take their box, speechless. The centaurs and house elves inspect their own. The world trembles as magic flows.
All right,
they say, one after another. We agree. And so they form the Society of the Free Peoples. Craftsmen of each group begin teaching one another and taking on a handful of students. Dumbledore, Remus, and Lily all become interim magic teachers until the laws allow non-human students at Hogwarts. And the conversation topics turn to how to deal with Voldemort and the Death Eaters. Harry explained the issue of the Horcruxes. There are 5 of them that each need to be found and destroyed before Voldemort can fall. Dumbledore explains the difficulty in destroying a Horcrux. When he mentions Dragonflame as one such method, a goblin raises their hand.
Our smiths use many secrets in the forging, they say. Secrets that should not be spoken to outsiders. But you have been more generous than one would expect today. So, in the spirit of trade, I'll say it all requires Dragonflame as a heat source. If the Horcruxes are found, we'll see them burn.
That's a plan then, Dumbledore says. So now, we just need to find the damn things. Dark magic like that, it leaves behind traces, Harry says. Think a room you never want to enter, or a book you don't want to open, and you don't know why. Does that sound familiar to anyone? They start pooling what knowledge they have. Draco asks Dobby about a diary his father keeps in his office, one that Dobby isn't allowed to dust.
Yes, Dobby knows the one. Dobby doesn't like that book.
Do you think you can get it for us?
Oh, but that would go against Master. Dobby can't.
Draco tries to calm the house elf before saying, You know who I am, don't you? I'm Draco Malfoy, the grown-up version of the baby your masters have just had. So, technically, I'm your master too, aren't I? Dobby thinks through this.
That? Dobby thinks that's correct, Master. Yes.
Well, in that case, Draco says, handing Dobby a sock, you're a free elf, free to make your own decisions, as are all house elves when we're finished. And we need that book. Dobby holds the sock, tears glinting in his eye.
Free? Dobby is free? Thank you. Yes, Dobby will get the book.
Next, the centaurs know of a place in the Forbidden Forest, a place that feels evil, where nothing will grow. Ron and the centaurs travel to the clearing, Ron on a broom while the centaurs run. Together they push through the corrupted defenses, dodge the flurries of magic, and eventually find a ring that had once belonged to Voldemort's mother. Then the goblins. They know of a vault with no owner, one that holds a single item, a locket. It's standard policy for unowned vaults to be emptied or assigned to government protection projects. But this is different, and company policy says to simply ignore it. Not as a rule, but a safety measure. The goblins' internal laws say that taking from an unowned vault is not stealing, merely claiming. But the danger of what's inside means none have been stupid enough to try. Hermione and the goblins go to this vault and break through the defenses to extract the locket. She gives them basic magic lessons as they go, and when the door is finally opened, their new abilities are tested. The locket is the first thing Voldemort ever stole. It had belonged to the matron at the orphanage, back when Dumbledore had first met him. Finally, without elsewhere to look, Dumbledore knows where Tom Riddle had once lived, long ago, before the child had slaughtered his own parents and ended up at that orphanage. Without knowing what to search for, Harry and James are sent to the old, crumbling house. Harry's never really had the chance to spend time with his father, so for the first time they get to talk and joke. They save each other from traps and magical mishaps. James is a lot like Harry, just as stubborn, just as brave. Harry realizes James isn't the heroic father he thought he'd be. He's just a person, trying his best, just like everyone else. And he's proud to be his son. They battle through the ghosts of Voldemort's past and find a loose floorboard in the center of the house. Beneath it lies an old pocket watch. When they open it, it screams. The voice sounds like Voldemort, but for the words it roars.
No! Tom, please don't!
They suspect the watch once belonged to the Dark Lord's own father, right before he was slain. Harry and James share a look. It's not a good place for fathers and sons. None of these are easy finds. All happen concurrently, and while our heroes search for the prizes, Death Eaters have been sent to stop them at each turn. Voldemort knows they are hunting him. Harry sees it in mental flashes. He tells the others, but there's nothing they can do but be prepared. As a result, each group becomes trapped and must fight their way out. But through all the dangers, miraculously little is lost. The centaurs and goblins have their own means of fighting, and the Death Eaters stand little chance in their homelands. Harry and James fight side by side, stealing the Death Eaters' brooms from beneath them and outflying the villains with ease. It becomes a game as they race each other back home. Dobby blows up Malfoy Manor. No one is hurt, but he's rather pleased with himself. Thus, all 4 Horcruxes are retrieved and taken to Dumbledore's office in Hogwarts. But that still leaves one more. While most recover from the fight, tending their wounds and teaching their classes, Harry and Dumbledore re-examine Slughorn's memory. They need to find the last Horcrux, and with the Order searching for any leads they can, there's precious little sign of progress. But even in that memory, repeated over and over again in Dumbledore's Pensieve, Tom Riddle asking for how to make 5 separate Horcruxes, 5 separations of his own soul, there's no indication of what that final piece might be. Could he still be making them? Harry asks. Maybe he never finished all 5. Dumbledore shrugs, sadly. The rest aren't recent creations. Decades old, at least. I doubt the last would be any different. Harry thinks on this, inspecting the Horcruxes they've found. He picks up the diary, and an image flashes over his mind. A young Tom Riddle watching a girl die in a bathroom, moaning Myrtle. Harry drops the book. His breath is fast, heartbeat bouncing out of his chest. The memory was strong. Carefully he moves to the watch, picking it up, and sees Riddle, only a boy, plunging a knife into his father's throat. Dumbledore knocks the watch from Harry's hand. With this many Horcruxes together, the connection you share will be stronger, Dumbledore says. Best not to invite risk needlessly, don't you think? Harry agrees and takes a few moments to catch his breath. Dumbledore offers him a sherbet lemon, and they return to work. They strain their minds to think of a direction to search, until Harry remembers the vial Snape had given him, right before he'd murdered Dumbledore. The thought feels strange, standing in a world where Snape was now dead, and Dumbledore instead by his side. Harry doesn't know what the vial contains, but as he pulls it out, he notices the silvery light floating inside. It's a memory. He hesitates, unsure if he wants to see this version of Snape again, before placing the memory into the Pensieve and plunging in. The world falls away and rebuilds into a small library. There's 2 chairs, a small table, and an empty fireplace. It's dark, much like Snape's office, and in the center of the room stands the man himself, looking Harry in the eye.
"Hello, Potter,"
Snape says. The old Snape. Harry's Snape. "What? You're here?" Harry says. "How?"
"I can't hear you, idiot,"
Snape says.
"I'm talking to an empty room, so that I can give it to you as a memory."
Harry remembers why he disliked Snape as a teacher.
"I need you to listen, Potter,"
Snape continues.
"You and I have never gotten along, which is my fault. I'm the adult, it's my responsibility. It may not seem so, but I've done all I can to keep you safe. Since you first walked into the Great Hall and I realized who you were, the child of my best friend, Lily, my worst enemy, James, and I knew your life, for reasons that were never yours to control, would be horrifying. For my place in that, I am sorry. You never deserved this life. But no matter what happens, from this point out, the story's ending relies upon you. And for you to have any chance, there are some things you need to understand. Things kept from you. Unjustly, I think. So pay attention."
The world drops away again, passing through Snape's and Lily's life together. He was the first to tell her she was a witch. They grew up together. They played, they argued, they built such wonders of magic that made them both smile. The years at Hogwarts went by, and she met and fell in with James and his friends, Snape's bullies, who never gave him a kind day. Yet she never lost touch with him, and he never stopped caring for her. He had his own friends, though, the Death Eaters. He fell in with the wrong crowd, and a leader that saw potential in him, who lifted him above the others, gave him authority within the group. How could he say no to a place of his own? Until that place came for Lily. Voldemort wanted their child dead because of a stupid prophecy. Snape couldn't allow that. So he went to Dumbledore, the only real threat to Voldemort's power, and begged the old man on hands and knees,
"Please, save her!"
The price? Snape became a double agent for the Order of the Phoenix, a life of mistrust and danger, but worth it. Until the next memory flashes by, and Snape is the first to reach an old burned-out house, screaming into the night as he holds Lily's lifeless body. Screaming, much like Harry's mother had when she'd seen Snape fall. There's a child beside him, with a scar on his head. Snape delivers him to the Order, makes sure the child is safe, as Lily would have wanted. But when he sees Dumbledore, he comes so damn close to murdering the old man. He'd made a deal for Lily's life. Dumbledore had promised she'd be safe. "I tried, Severus," Dumbledore says. "I'm sorry, they were betrayed. There's nothing more I could do." Snape turns away from the old man and sees that his best friend is properly laid to rest. The next memories, Harry in the Great Hall, Lily's eyes staring right back at him. He thought it would be a happy day, but the pain never really left. The boy proved just as troublesome as his father. Snape found it hard not to hate the child. But the dangers Harry would face should not be faced alone. He was just a kid. It wasn't his fault. That's what Snape told himself, at night when the world was dark and empty and he had nowhere else to go. It wasn't their fault. But why couldn't he just move on, leave, find a new life? No. Everyone knew Voldemort was weaker, but not gone. The dangers were growing again, just like last time. The boy needed his support. He owed Lily that much. And Snape did not trust Dumbledore. The next flash, and Snape is visibly older, inspecting the damage to Dumbledore's blackened hand. Another Horcrux down, but the cost? The old man wouldn't survive the year.
"This will slow the pain,"
Snape says, handing over the potion he'd designed.
"But there's nothing more I can do."
Dumbledore ignores the glare, ignores the fact he's leaving the fight with no solution. "Thank you, Severus," he says. "There's 2 more things I need of you. Do this, and it's over."
"I'm listening,"
Snape says, unimpressed. "I know the Malfoy boy has been tasked with killing me. I need you to be the one to do it, not him. Do not put that on a teenager." Snape doesn't reply for a moment, taking that in.
"So I'm not going to kill you."
Dumbledore laughs. "Why not? You've wanted to for years, ever since I let dear Lily die. Do you no longer care for her, Severus?" The stare, blank, unyielding, is all Dumbledore receives in reply. Snape casts his Patronus. A doe. Lily's doe. "Even now?" Dumbledore asks. Snape's stare is unbroken.
"Always."
The headmaster nods, understandingly. "Well then, you won't like this next part. Harry needs to die. You need to make that happen." The Patronus vanishes. Snape says nothing. "Harry is a Horcrux, Severus," Dumbledore continues. "An extra, unintentional Horcrux. Voldemort cannot die until Harry does first."
"How long have you known?"
"Since I first saw the scar on his head. People think it's a simple cut, a mark left by the killing curse's touch. But if that was so, every victim of Voldemort would bear the same. They don't. Because in truth, it's an entrance wound, made when a soul is split and attaches to a living thing." "So, what have we been doing? Why protect him all this time? If you wanted him dead, we could have just sat back and watched." "And give up the best bait we have? The best distraction while we search for the other 5?
"Is that all he is to you? Bait?
He's a child! And this is war, Severus. You knew that going in. That's why you came to me. Don't pretend you're any better." Snape wants to refuse, to throw everything in the old man's face. But as cruel as it was, Dumbledore was right. Harry sees a twinge in Snape's face, a decision being made. "You must see it done, Severus," Dumbledore says, spotting the same thing. "Please." They stop talking as they hear footsteps. Harry sees himself walk into the room. "Severus?" Dumbledore asks. Snape frowns.
"Fine then, so be it,"
and walks out. The world fades away, back to the library and Snape, looking more tired than ever before. Harry doesn't know what to make of it. He's a Horcrux. He has to die. Dumbledore was just letting him grow like a lamb to slaughter, and Snape, of all people, was the only one actually trying to help. All that fighting, and he wouldn't even see the end.
"Dumbledore made me promise not to tell you," Snape says. "We argued for days, but you have a right to know what's coming, and this is the only way I could think to do so. I know it's a lot to take in, Potter. I know 100 things are likely running through your mind. Maybe the prophecy is true. Maybe the Sorting Hat should have put you in Slytherin like it considered doing. Maybe so many other things. Maybe you aren't as good as you think you are, if you have literal evil as part of your being, and the scar to prove it's there. Do not listen to these thoughts, Potter. You are your own person. You are not him, you are not Dumbledore or your parents or anyone else. You are Harry Potter, and you need to remember that." He takes a breath, as if unsure to continue. "Slytherin was not always seen as evil, you know. Until a few decades ago when the Dark Lord first appeared, it was just a schoolhouse, for people who liked dark rooms in the dungeons, and writing poetry with ghosts and love triangles. They used to be the most accepting house, a place for outcasts to be alone, but alone together. If you belonged there, it is nothing to be ashamed of. You are not the Dark Lord's replacement. You're a brat of a kid who doesn't listen in potions class, and anything more is just trying to control you. Then Snape smiles, for possibly the first time Harry has seen. Do not let others decide your fate, Potter. You're far too stubborn for that. Good luck. Harry erupts from the Pensieve, face wet, hands shivering. Are you okay? Dumbledore asks. There's concern in his eyes. What was it? Nothing, Harry replies. Just a friend, saying goodbye. Harry tries to dull his shakes, to collate everything he's just heard, wondering if he should run from the room and escape Dumbledore. The old man must already know Harry's a Horcrux, and hasn't said a word. He's the 5th Horcrux, the one they're looking for. Except, no, he can't be. Voldemort planned on 5 decades before Harry was even born. But he didn't plan on him, meaning Harry was the 6th, leaving one still missing. Then Harry's mind lands on the last thing Snape mentioned. Slytherin had never been evil, not until Voldemort arrived, which meant he changed something. Professor, is there any way that Voldemort could affect the Sorting Hat? Tweak who ends up in which house? Dumbledore strokes his beard. It's possible, though I wouldn't know to what end. Maybe to put all the possible Death Eaters in one place? Dumbledore keeps stroking his beard contemplatively. That's an interesting thought. For argument's sake, let's say he did. How would he go about it? Dumbledore sighs. Well, he'd need access to the Sorting Hat, and constant control during the ceremony to have that manner of influence. Why do you ask? Access, like if he'd hidden a piece of his soul inside it? Dumbledore freezes, and they both turn to the Sorting Hat, sitting atop a nearby shelf. Their wands are drawn. The hat just laughs at the newfound attention. You wouldn't kill an old defenseless hat now, would you? You're not just a hat, though, are you? Harry asks. Did Voldemort turn you into a Horcrux? Now you're thinking just like him, the hat says. Old Tom Riddle. Good lad, remind me of you, Potter. As I once said, you would have done well in Slytherin. Except you haven't said that yet, says Harry. Not for another 11 years. So how do you know? Harry, put it on, Dumbledore says, levitating the hat down. I want to see something. What? Professor, that's a terrible idea. Didn't you just say not to risk it? Not to needlessly risk it, he replies. But with this one, we need to know, don't we? That's not needless. What are you afraid of, Potter? The hat says through broken laughter. Harry grimaces. Nothing you control, and puts the hat on. The world flashes and goes dark. The headmaster's study, blood, a hand taking the hat, a young man in the bushes, another with his wand. A voice building in the night as image after image dart by his eyes, building and building with the screaming of crowds long dead. Harry Potter! The hat is thrown from Harry's head. He's on the floor, pools of sweat, Dumbledore standing over him. Harry, are you all right? It was him, Harry says. His voice, That's it. The final one. Then we found it, Dumbledore whispers. The hat just laughs. Things move quickly after that. The school is locked down, the students evacuated to safety. They need a defensive location to destroy the Horcruxes. Their loss would surely be felt by the Dark Lord, and he would not come calling alone. What better place to fight the Death Eaters off than a castle? Even with the Horcruxes destroyed, Voldemort must still be slain. Messages are sent, troops gathered. The goblins bring a dragon, a young Norwegian Ridgeback.
It's small, but fierce, used in their smithing. The centaurs set up defensive lines in the courtyard. The house elves prepare traps throughout the castle, aimed at those bearing the dark mark. Draco is exempt from these traps, he's assured. But he still avoids the halls where possible. The wand bearers of all races practice their stuns, their parries, and the Order of the Phoenix gather in Hogwarts, all en masse, preparing for the fight to come. The preparations will take time, so it's decided that the following night the flame will burn, and the battle shall begin, which leaves 24 hours to rest. But Harry does not rest. The Horcruxes are gathered, his parents are alive, Voldemort is due to be beaten, and he knows that Dumbledore can easily win this fight. Everything he wanted to achieve by coming back here, he's about to accomplish. But not if he lives to see it. Harry knows he's a Horcrux. So long as he's alive, this fight cannot be won. The dragon is sleeping just outside the walls. If he goes there, lets it kill him, burn him, away goes the Horcrux. And his friends can finally win this war. Otherwise, he's just a danger to everyone, a burden. Voldemort will win, and it was all for nothing. So that night, after dinner, after he said his goodbyes and goodnights to Ron and Hermione, his parents and friends, he finally decides to go. They don't know it's forever, but that's okay. The only one he can't find is Draco. He's not at dinner, but he doubts Draco will miss him much anyway. Weirdly though, that makes him sad. He doesn't know why. Harry sneaks out from the busyness when no one would notice, through the halls that would one day be his home, out the courtyard where he'd first try sneaking off to Hogsmeade, and to the front gate of the castle, the path he might yet take to go visit Hagrid once upon tomorrow. So many memories that haven't yet happened, and yet that have. Such is his life. But as he nears the gates, he spies a figure with blonde hair and raggedy black clothes, leaning against the archway. "Where are you sneaking off to, Potter?" the voice calls. Draco stands there, blocking his way. "Just off to visit Hagrid's hut," Harry says. He doesn't stop walking. Draco steps in front of him, halting the advance. "How dumb do you think I am?" Harry smiles. "Do you really want an answer?" "You know what? Yeah, go ahead." Harry's grin, all ready to throw a punchline at his old foe. Can't quite manage it. It falls from his lips. "What, no joke, Harry?" Draco says. "No one-liner? No gut punch for old time's sake? Nothing?" Harry fumbles for words. "Let me go, Draco. Please." "No," he replies. "No, I know you. I've fought you enough to know you're trying to be a bloody hero, like always, and I'm not going to let you do it. Draco, move." Draco pulls his wand. "Make me." Harry pulls his own and fires a stun at Draco, blocked easily. Another stun answers the first, back and forth, red light shattering the darkness of night as the fight continues. Missed shots break statues, and bricks crash to the ground. Hermione and Ron, hearing the commotion, run outside. Hermione sees Draco firing at Harry and pulls her own wand to intervene, until Ron grabs her arm. "No, wait," he says. "Look at them. Their faces. I think they need this." Hermione does as he suggests and sees both combatants' eyes. They're not angry at each other. They're sad. "Why are you doing this?" Harry screams. "Because those two won't thump you for being an idiot," Draco yells back, pointing at Ron and Hermione. "But someone needs to, so you're left with me." Another bolt, another block. "I'm the last person you want to be around," Draco yells. "I know, I get it. Hate me all you like, you always have. But I'm all you've got, and I'm not going to let you do this." Another bolt, response, parry, reply. "I did hate you," says Harry. "So why are you here? Why do all this?" "Because I care about you, Potter! Don't you get that?" Harry stops fighting. Draco doesn't. Malfoy fires again and again, harder, stronger, driving Harry back as he struggles to parry each blow. Draco marches towards him with every shot. "I've always cared about you," Draco screams, "and I can't keep watching you hurt yourself for some Old man's stupid fairy tale. Chosen one, crap. You're a person. You deserve to be a person, not a martyr. Draco fights, blow after blow, stepping closer and closer. But Harry doesn't respond. He doesn't fight back. He only blocks. Come on, Potter, Draco yells. You didn't hold back before. Blow after blow, block after block. Draco keeps firing. Harry barely holds them back as they grow closer and closer, and both slowly lose the energy to fight. Fight! Come on! Draco says, puffing for breath. Why? You always fight. Why aren't you fighting? Harry closes the small remaining gap between them, tears in both their eyes, and draws Draco into a hug. I care about you too, he whispers. I'm sorry. For everything. Draco stops fighting and hugs him back. They fall to their knees, wiping their cheeks on each other's shirts. Don't do this, Harry, Draco says. You can't. Not now. Not like this. No choice, Harry replies. I'm the last Horcrux. So long as I'm alive, Voldemort cannot die. Draco looks him in the eye, saying nothing. Harry kisses him, just lightly, on the lips. Draco kisses back. I need you to take care of the others for me, Harry says. And keep an eye on the younger usses. I have a feeling they're going to be real troublemakers. Draco laughs and glares. That's not fair, Harry. Harry just smiles. No, it isn't. It really isn't. Then Harry moves to stand up, to continue his final walk, but Draco doesn't let him go. I'll do this on one condition. Harry waits. If you need to go, Draco continues, then don't go early. Don't throw the time away. Please stay. With us. With me. Harry takes Draco's hand, holding gently but tight. Okay. They share one more kiss before wiping each other's tears, giggling, and walking hand in hand up towards the castle, silently passing Ron and Hermione. Ron winks at Draco. Hermione smiles. Draco tries to hold himself together, Harry too. But they lean on each other, pushing back and forth to stay on their feet. Like, in many ways, they always have. The following night, as clouded dusk settles to dark, the castle is ready. Rows of centaurs stand guard. 2 full goblin battalions, decked out in shining armor and blades, await their orders. The house elves are placed around the roofs, ready to drop their traps upon enemies. And the wand bearers of all shapes and sizes, including the Order of the Phoenix, all stand in the center of the courtyard, right by the dragon, with an unlit brazier full of Horcruxes before them. Remus downed the potion Lily had made him. He needs full control tonight, and no fear of passing on his curse. Are we ready? Dumbledore smiles and signals the dragon's handler. Everyone takes a breath as the dragon lights the flame. The blaze hits the 5 Horcruxes, and a scream echoes through the world as energy explodes out of them in a mist of green light. Harry's scar shakes in his head, cracking pain through his mind as the world shivers in response. Then the sounds and light echo and bounce and dim and die. Harry's scar calms down, and then there is silence. They all look around, unsure what is to come. Is that it? Asks Ron. Is it over? Then a tremor runs through the ground, barely noticeable. No, says Harry. No, I think that's just the start. The sound of thunder ricochets in the distance, and on the tops of the mountains they see points of starlight. One point, another, a line, a shape. Like a forest fire, the lights rage down the valley towards the castle, with one dark figure at its head. Here we go, Sirius says. He's hiding a smile. The goblin dragon handler directs his charge to burn down through a cavity in the wall, tunnels running throughout the castle, ancient defenses. The dragon's fire flows throughout the channels and erupts at the castle's edge, surrounding the building in a wall of impenetrable flame. When the horde reaches this wall, Voldemort sends his army forwards. They plummet into the blaze, scorching into dust. The army surrounds the castle, looking for weak points. Many are lost. Voldemort pulls them back. Cheers erupt inside the castle. They're safe! But then they see Voldemort, followed by his Death Eaters, amassing at the bridge just the other side of the entrance, the other side of the flame. With a whip of the Dark Lord's wand, an enormous burning snake appears and carves forward, through the flaming wall and gate and into the courtyard. Dumbledore fires a bolt of light, shattering the snake into pieces. But the damage is done. The wall of flame remains parted, and the hordes descend. Remus, with James and Sirius by his side, stands at the head of the battle lines. They see the enemy approaching, with Peter Pettigrew in the front row, the friend who betrayed them. Remus raises his wand to the sky and whispers, "I swore I'd never do this. Stay behind me." The other two, at the ready, both nod their agreement. At Remus's command, the clouded skies part to reveal a full moon. He screams and roars and howls as he takes his werewolf form. His two friends, now a huge black dog and a great antlered stag, all look to each other and charge at the oncoming hordes. Peter does not escape. The goblins and centaurs follow their lead, the wand bearers fire, the house elves' traps start dropping and exploding around them, and the chaos of battle ignites. And in the center of it all, Voldemort, untouched, wanders forth to where Dumbledore stands waiting. Tell me, Tom, are you still afraid of me?
I was never afraid of you, old man,
Voldemort roars. You never were a good liar, Tom.
Oh? Unlike you?
Dumbledore freezes for a moment, and the smile slips. Alas, yes. You could pull everyone back. It doesn't have to be like this.
Now who's lying?
Voldemort yells, and fires a bolt of light at Dumbledore, who catches it and returns his own. Their duel cleaves the battle lines, pushing the rest of the fray to the sides. No one wants to be caught in the middle. Lily and Hermione are on one side, throwing a ribbon of energy between them, knocking down one foe after another. It's almost a dance as they leap from place to place. The Death Eaters try to avoid them. They'd rather face the unyielding goblin blades than those two. Ron notices this dance, distracted just long enough for a Death Eater to take aim. But before the spell can be cast, a great antlered stag plunges through, knocking the Death Eater into Ron, throwing them both to the ground. Ron is uninjured. The Death Eater, not so much. James changes back into human form, helping Ron to his feet, and they both see Lily and Hermione's ribbon cutting through the surrounding foes. James leans towards Ron. Tell me, has Hermione always been that scary? Absolutely, Ron says. Lily too? Oh, yep. They stand there, dumbstruck, for just a little longer than they should do, until Lily glances over. Come on, you boys going to catch up? Aw, tired already? Hermione adds. Both men blush. Ron turns. We should probably. Yes, we should definitely. And they return to the fighting, both men trying very hard not to smile at the women they've totally fallen for yet again. On the other side of the rift, Harry and Draco are fighting side by side. They're knocking down Death Eaters, blocking shots for each other, having each other's backs. They've barely had the chance to fight together like this, not since Godric's Hollow, not on the same side. But they move like they've known each other their whole lives. Then a blast knocks off one Death Eater's cowl, revealing Lucius Malfoy, Draco's father. Draco hesitates. Yes, he's killed him once before. Yes, he's fought and turned against everything his father has ever stood for. but it's still his dad. Lucius recognizes something in Draco. Maybe not a son, but a relative, someone of his blood that's turned against the family. The fury in Lucius's eyes. Draco knows it well. But before he can react, a red pulse hits Lucius in the chest, pushing him back a step. "Hey!" Harry yells. "Hands off! He's mine!" Another shot, full of rage, hits Lucius, throwing him to the edge of the flame. Draco's wand is still shivering with leftover power when Harry throws the final shot and Lucius falls into nothing. Baby Draco would grow up without a father. But Draco also knows what that change means. Harry grabs Draco's hand, silencing the shakes, and together they turn back to the fight. Meanwhile, Dumbledore is still fighting Voldemort, and he's winning. The tides are almost evenly matched, both throwing everything they have at the other, and yet Dumbledore is gaining ground, and Voldemort, though holding his own, is falling just short of the old man. One final blast from Dumbledore knocks the Dark Lord to the ground, and the battle falls silent. All eyes are upon the pair as Dumbledore stands over his foe. "Surrender, Tom. Put an end to this, please." Voldemort laughs.
Surrender? Why would I surrender, here of all places?
Dumbledore grows worried. There's something he's missed.
You've just destroyed my soul 5 times over,
Voldemort says.
My Horcruxes shattered. Where do you think that energy went?
Dumbledore can barely react before Voldemort sends a flare of burning green light towards him, crashing him against the far wall. The sky fills with ghostly faces, laughing, screaming, the death rattles of his foes. Tendrils of light from all across the castle and sky descend upon Voldemort as he regains his feet and presses the advantage against Dumbledore. The old man blocks each bolt, but only just. That same light, though, that fuels Voldemort's return to form also pulls and flows through Harry. Flashes of nightmares claw at Harry's mind, screams he hasn't heard, screams he has. Suddenly, those faces and death rattles in the clouds, he can name every one of them. He remembers every soul the Dark Lord has taken from this world, every family he's broken, every chair that will never be filled. And Harry grows furious. As the last face, Snape, flashes before him, Harry marches towards Voldemort, and with the half-blood prince in his mind, he roars, "Sectum Sempra!" Voldemort blocks the attack and stops firing. Dumbledore slumps to the ground, alive but weakened, and the tethers of light from the clouds change course, only half now going to Voldemort, the other to Harry.
Harry Potter!
Voldemort yells.
Always full of surprises, aren't you?
Voldemort aims at Harry.
Avada Kedavra!
Harry returns fire. Expelliarmus! Their bolts of light meet each other and crash and connect, like lightning arced between the two wands, both fueled by the winds of the past Horcruxes funneling through them. The surrounding combatants, already at a loss, grow increasingly nervous. A few Death Eaters start to flee.
Fools!
Voldemort yells, and the tendrils of light that had previously avoided all living things suddenly strike each of them in the heart. Every Death Eater and wizard and centaur, elf and goblin standing behind the Dark Lord is pulled to the ground, slowly drained of life. Some are able to fight it off, but few succeed. Voldemort's new energy surges at Harry, who strains against it, but cannot hope to hold on alone. And the other side, those behind Harry, they don't know what to do. But Lily and Hermione do. "Everyone!" Lily yells to the crowd. "Watch us! Do as we do!" The pair of them aim at Harry's back and push their energy towards him, bolstering Harry against the onslaught. "Think of what you want to do," Hermione tells the crowd. "Think of what he means to you, the love, the care, the reason to stand side by side, and send that out." One by one, the Order of the Phoenix and wand bearers of all groups aim at Harry, and a white silvery light threads between them, like a spider's web connecting Harry and his friends and family together. Ron and Hermione have their best friends back. Lily and James, their son. Sirius, a godson. Draco, the most important person in his world. And Harry, who's always thought himself expendable, that somewhere in the back of his mind knows that no one really cares for him, just like he'd been taught by the Dursleys for the first decade of his life. Suddenly, that part of him is gone, filled. This thread, this light from his family burrows into his heart, and he knows with every fiber of his being that he has a place in life. And for that moment, as he holds back the Dark Lord's rage, he is truly happy. Which makes his next moment the hardest thing he's ever had to do. It's always easier to leave when you have no reason to stay. Harry screams against the attack, pushing it away and stepping forward once again. Voldemort steps back, struggling but pressing. Harry, one step at a time, moves forward and forward, pushing increasingly large amounts of energy into the fight as a ball of white light forms between the two. Figures start appearing. Faces, ghosts, people Harry knows and doesn't know. Voldemort sees them as well, standing around the light, hammering at him, and Harry sees the souls of the dead from not just this world, but his own. His parents, Sirius, Tonks, Arthur and Molly Weasley and their sons, one face after another, who, because of what he's done, now stand by his side, alive. "Hey, Harry," says the ghost of Sirius, the one Harry really knew. "It's okay. You can do this." "What if I can't?" he says, straining. "What if I fail? What if I can't save them?" The ghostly Sirius laughs. "Harry, look around. You already did." Harry can feel Sirius in the spider's web of supporting light, still alive, just like his parents and Dumbledore and everyone else. "Stay with me?" Harry asks. Sirius gives a wink. "Never left." And Harry presses against the fight, one step forward, another. Voldemort is pushed back with each blow, and the white orb of energy grows stronger and stronger. The wall of dragon flame encircling the castle reacts with the glow of the fight, burning blue and white like the world becomes starlight itself. Until Voldemort is pushed to the edge of the cliff, the flame searing the back of his robe. He roars one last push, and the orb explodes between them. The castle rattles, and walls collapse into the courtyard. The Death Eaters and their foes are flung to the ground and knocked backwards. All webs and connections are severed. The ghosts vanish from sight, and only Harry and Voldemort remain standing, both puffing for breath.
"You can't beat me, Harry," Voldemort says with a grin. "You are a Horcrux, aren't you? I don't know how, but I can feel it. You're a part of me. So long as you live, I do as well."
"You're right, Tom," Harry says. "Unfortunately, you're right." He glances at Ron, Hermione, and at Draco. "And it was amazing, but you're right." Then he charges at Voldemort. No spells, no bolt of light, just a tackle, his shoulder hitting the Dark Lord's chest, and they both fall off the cliff and into the dragon flame. Voldemort tries to stop him, to fly, to push him off, but Harry's skin is like acid on his flesh, countering any attempt at magic, just like his mother had given him once upon tomorrow. And they fall, and they burn, and the world shines. There are screams, and there are cries, and Harry stands at the top of a small staircase leading down into a white octagonal room made of light. The ceiling is unthinkably high, and the floor holds no shadow. On the opposite side of the room stands a great dark door, open and waiting. He doesn't hurt anymore. His wounds are healed and clothes repaired. As he walks down the stairs, Harry sees a little boy, barely 8 years old, sitting in the middle. He's wearing the sorting hat and playing with the other Horcruxes like they were toys. "Hello, Harry," the boy says. "Hey, Tom." The walls behind Tom Riddle hold shadows of memories. There's anger there, the abuse of a father, the father's death by Tom's hand, enemies that called him names, and the retributions to make them stop, one tragedy after another. Not all the boy's fault. Not all without his fault, either. It's a sad story painted on those walls, and Tom can't bring himself to look. "All I wanted," Tom says in a thin, trembling voice, "was a world where I wasn't always afraid." "I know," Harry replies, "but you have to understand. That's all we wanted too." On the other side of the room, Harry sees his own memories, fights, losses, and wins. His first days at Hogwarts, the escape he'd finally found from the Dursleys' prison, and the new danger it all brought. Then the walls change. He sees those he left behind, back in his own world. He sees Neville, Ginny, and Luna all grown up, fighting to stop the Death Eaters. Neville standing strong, keeping the Death Eaters back. Ginny flying circles around them as a distraction to get a family to safety. Luna in her 40s, celebrating Voldemort's final downfall with her own special tea, while crowds around her cheer. Their revolution would take more time. It's not easy to fix what has already been broken. But that fix would come, and the dark days would give way to light. Not even the worst things can last forever. The edges of the room start burning, and Harry knows their time is limited. So Harry offers Tom Riddle his hand. "Come on, Tom. It's time we go." The boy accepts Harry's offer, standing up and grabbing his arm like a child to an older brother. And as the room burns, they walk through the final doorway and are gone. Back in the castle, everyone sees the pair fall into the flame. One last howl of the Horcrux's death reverberates through the castle, and the world turns silent. The fighting ends quickly. Death Eaters flee once they see Voldemort's defeat, and those that don't last long without backup. We see scenes of sadness, of funerals, and of a few days later, when James and Lily Potter walk through a bedroom door to see Hagrid, trying and failing to read a storybook to a tiny baby Harry who holds no scar. 11 years pass, and King's Cross Station is bustling as James and Lily Potter hurry their boy through the wall to platform 9 3/4, his younger sister in tow. There's goblins and house elves saying goodbye to their parents for the first time, while centaurs have their own access from the forest. This is the first year that non-human students have been admitted to Hogwarts, and the platform has never been more packed. In the corner of the platform stand 3 people. They don't have children, but James and Lily know them very well. The fully grown Draco, Ron, and Hermione all watch as young Harry smiles at the Hogwarts Express for that first incredible time. He has no scar, no fear, no worries in the world. He's not happy to be escaping an abusive household. He's amazed simply for what he sees. They watch as young Harry and Ron bump into each other and hunt the platform for their best friend, Draco, who's visited every Christmas. Draco's always hard to find, but they rope him in and board the train together. And then, as they find their seats, the only booth available already has a girl with curly hair and her nose in a book. A girl who's only just learned magic exists, but she's already read every schoolbook she has. The 3 adults watch their younger selves laughing through the windows, with a Harry Potter that got to grow up safe. A boy who actually lived. Because, among many things, that's what this story was really about. It's about wonder and adventure and the innocence of childhood, about finding an escape from that terrible place to somewhere more, somewhere magical, that you belong. And as the characters and we as the audience grow up through the series, it's also about realizing that living through that war as a child, that's kind of messed up. And it's okay to feel nostalgia for it while still admitting how messed up it was. Those two things do not contradict each other. And even though your childhood can't be saved or changed, you can't return to your own childhood and make it better, there is one thing you can do. You can change the world now, so that tomorrow, the next kid doesn't have to face it like you did. You fought that battle so they won't have to. And as a result, because of your fight, and if you're very, very lucky, some kid will get to live without carrying your scars. And they'll get to head out into the world on their own Hogwarts Express and make the world better again. When writing these stories, you need to know your audience. People grow up, they change, they get to that age just on the cusp of adulthood when you start looking back and realizing the life they lived to get there. And I didn't write these videos in a vacuum. No story is ever written that way. It was written in a world where we still carry the scars we grew up with. Most generations do. And it's written in a world where maybe we need to let Harry Potter pass on, like the ghost of a childhood friend, so that the next generation of kids can grow up in a better world. Which is a message that, for a small creator like me, can be carried a lot further if it's tied to some art, or a rant, or maybe a story, especially one that will almost exclusively appeal to those who, like me, grew up in that world, and care enough to let it go. Harry Potter meant everything to us, which means it's our decision when to say goodbye. And I think we are getting there. We just need a little more of a push. Maybe a fanfiction alternate ending or two on our way out? But we'll get there. I know we will. If you've watched all this way, thank you so much. It really does mean the world to me. This is by far the largest video thing I've ever attempted, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed writing it. I grew up with these stories, as many of you probably did. I was just a kid at the time, almost the exact target age of each film as they came out, but seeing the continued impact that Harry Potter has had on the world made me want to talk about it and use it to grow my skills as a writer, maybe even to help others do the same. And hopefully the world can also grow and be better for the next lot of kids to make their own worlds from. We need more kindness, and it's at least worth a try. Thank you again, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. See you next time.